Hey guys, tonight we are journeying back in time, to a place where the world as we know it today was being shaped on the banks of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Picture this: you're lying on the packed earth, dawn's light edging between reed mat walls, casting shadows that dance across clay surfaces etched with strange scripts. You open your eyes to the buzz of an ancient city in Mesopotamia. Here, your cuneiform tablets and clay tokens hold the secrets and wealth of an empire, and let me tell you, using them is nothing like a simple swipe on your smartphone. In fact, you probably won't survive this ancient adventure. Life was less Netflix and chill, and more survival and strategy. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As the whispers of morning unfurl, you rub sleep from your eyes and push aside a woven mat that barely contains the thrust of bustling city life outside. Mesopotamia awakens you, not gently, mind you, but with the clatter of cartwheels against cobblestones and the shouts of vendors already haggling over goods. Your sleep is interrupted not by an alarm but by the caw of birds and the distant, rhythmic clang of a blacksmith at work. It's a city alive, breathing, where every brick in these towering ziggurats holds tales of heroes, gods, and mortals like you. Your dwelling is humble, bricks fashioned from sun-baked clay stack upon each other, forming walls that promise no soundproof respite. Lounge on an uneven floor of packed dirt, and you'll soon find that comfort is a modern luxury these ancients scoff at with their reed mats and wool blankets, perfect if you're fond of an unnatural lifestyle. Historians still argue whether these sleeping arrangements contributed to their robust, no-nonsense attitude or if it just left them perpetually grumpy. Either way, you adapt, because in this world, adaptation is survival. You grope for the clay tablet beside you, squinting at the cuneiform that seems more abstract art than readable text. Imagine sending a text message, except it involves hefting clay weights and employing a reed stylus you could mistake for a particularly blunt pencil. Try losing this tablet and you could potentially erase entire snippets of history or at least last month's grain tally. Talk about pressure. By now, you appreciate the irony. Here, the digital equivalent of forgetting your Spotify password means solving a Rubik's Cube of symbols. Outside, as the city shakes off its drowsiness, you're met with sights that fill a symphony of chaos and order. Merchants display their wares, trying to one-up neighbors with louder slogans and gaudier wares. There's an art to surviving this marketplace without a coin in sight. Only barter tokens and haggling skills stand between you and an empty belly. The morning air carries scents both expectant and foreign. Roasted grain meets an undertone of incense drifting from temple altars. If these scents could tell stories, they'd speak of gods, rituals, and age-old hatreds between settling tribes vying for dominion. Your currency consists of humble clay tokens, each shaped with precision to signify goods or service exchanges. Lose them, and lunch quickly becomes a dry date scrounged from the ground. Enthralling stuff, isn't it? You think you've mastered complexity when you beat a tough video game. Try not losing these tokens, though, each akin to losing 2 weeks' worth of groceries when misplaced. People say time is money, yet here, time is often wasted remembering which of these tablets records your last barter, a real test for the memory. Narratives of Mesopotamian gods fill your last waking thoughts, gods who shape destinies and demand respect tempered with fear. You remember these tales, whispered by firelight, reveal a society's attempts to grapple with the ambiguous vastness of the divine and the human struggles beneath them. You navigate a city poised between worlds, earth and deity, a reality densely animated with both hope and haunting catastrophes, where each day is a story unwritten, waiting to unfold. Before your imagination runs wild enough to send you fleeing back to modern comforts, pause for a moment. Appreciate these vignettes of history, life lived simply, yet intricately woven with knowledge, hardship, and resilience. Here, your endurance is tested amongst people shaping civilization's infancy shoulders, proving history was anything but boring. The archaeological troves may puzzle over the quirks, like the cutting-edge technology of a curved sickle or a mathematical system based on the number 60, still debated among scholars. Will you really fit in here, thriving amidst such primitive sophistication and complexity shaped in stone? Unlikely, and that, perhaps, is the grandeur and awe of awakening in ancient Mesopotamia. Your eyes flutter open to the sounds of a city half awake, the first light of dawn casting a golden hue over the huddled buildings. As you rise and stretch, the air around you is already buzzing with the promise of a day drenched in history. Welcome to ancient Mesopotamia, where every waking moment is an archaeological dig into the depths of human civilization. Stepping out, you're greeted by an olfactory symphony that's distinctly Mesopotamian. The air is thick with the merry medley of roasted grain, a staple so prevalent you might start to believe it's equivalent to coffee in the 21st century. As these earthy aromas weave through the city, they mingle with the more exotic notes of incense curling from temple burners. It's not just everyday incense, we're talking about the ancient equivalent of a high-end department store fragrance section. Aside from its spiritual uses, incense was burned in palaces to cover the less pleasant scents of the city, a historical attempt at what we might call an environmental freshener today. Now, if you haven't awakened your senses and embraced this new aroma-drenched reality, then maybe the bustle of life steadily starting will. Nearby, bakers tend to their ovens, where the red glow of embers provides both warmth and the promise of bread. Historians still argue whether those early bakers were the first ever food influencers, creating griddle cakes to die for, long before hashtags existed. A soft chuckle runs through your mind at the thought of a Sumerian cook snapping an Instabread post. As your feet shuffle forward, the iconic scent of cedar wafts over from carpenters crafting everything from plows to pyramids. Wood was a valuable commodity, shipped from faraway lands, and was thus highly prized. The scent of freshly sawn cedar is piquantly pleasant, a kind of ancient air freshener that's nearly enough to distract you from the realization that these master craftsmen worked wonders without modern tools. A sharp tang comes from the edges of the marketplace, where a seller proudly displays onions and garlic, exotic in aroma, outlandish to the untrained nose. It's both alluring and a tad overwhelming, like a first encounter with a particularly bold perfume. Yet here, these raw materials aren't just for seasoning your stew but are integral to medicine and ritual. Who knew the pungency of garlic could carry you from a sniffle to a spell? You inhale deeply, a nasal embrace of past worlds different from the predictable hum of car exhaust and fast food vapors back home. And in this odd aroma melange, you begin to find a touch of resigned affection. After all, even in modern society, there's something comforting about familiar scents, like how gingerbread signals the holidays, or sunscreen warns you at the beach to reapply or resemble a lobster. Here in ancient Mesopotamia, the scent itself is a storyteller, passing on tales of trade routes and cultural infusion as effectively as any bard with their harp. Smells linger longer than sights, an evolutionary quirk that serves you well as you wend your way deeper into the city. The scene around you is textured with hints of damp clay, prevalent from the building facades to the tablets upon which scribes record their cuneiform texts. This earthy undertone harmonizes with a fleeting breeze that carries something smooth, almost like an exotic spice. You think about how aromatic trails have been following humans longer than credit card bills, making you wonder if your sense of smell would have fared any better amidst Pharaoh's court or Hunnic encampments. Famously, Mesopotamian aroma concoctions also served as safeguards against evil spirits. Historians still argue whether these scents were more effective than garlic in keeping demons at bay, but maybe that's a scented candle battle for another time. Today, it's guilty pleasures of mesmeric fragrances skillfully blending roasted barley in sweet date wine that capture your imagination, and yes, maybe even suggest the earliest forms of aromatherapy. As you tread with hesitant steps over sun-baked paths, you can't help but appreciate the sensual layers of this new old world unfolding around you. With each inhale, these curated scents, refined over millennia, draw you even deeper into this timeless journey, providing both context and comfort in a land where the boundary between past and present begins to blur like an ancient reed pen bleeding into wet clay. Oh, remember that time when you thought rosemary was just for roasted potatoes? In Mesopotamia, it's tucked into reeds for ceremonies, turning even something as mundane as a shrub into a sacred emblem of renewal. And as fascinating as that may be, it's far easier to appreciate from a distance rather than in the midst of ceremonial smoke enveloping your senses, much like a crowded grill station during a Sunday barbecue. With these olfactory guides leading you towards unexpected histories and cultural dynamics, you find yourself not just observing but participating in the morning rhythms of this ancient metropolis. From sunrise until the first celestials appear in their nightly dance across the sky, the smells of Mesopotamia envelop you, etching a fragrant memory within you, an aroma archive to savor, until, of course, the next most fragrant civilization welcomes your senses. you find yourself staring at a choice selection of ancient Mesopotamian fashion, where the clay and wool of your contemporary wardrobe come alive with a kind of rustic charm. The city hums softly as it slowly awakens, but that hum is like a quiet backdrop to your more personal epiphany. Deciding what to wear in ancient Mesopotamia involves a bit more than poking through a closet of pre-washed, ready-to-go outfits. The materials, though simple by our modern standards, come with their own stories, woven quite literally into their fibers. As you rummage through the folds of fabric that have been laid before you, you are struck by the immodest luxury of Mesopotamian linen. Gossamer threads of this prized fabric, favored by those who could afford a taste of elegance, gently slip through your fingers, smooth yet slightly imperfect, as if nature itself had traced delicate lines into the material. Their soft touch contrasts sharply to their formidable production process. Imagine a single linen garment requiring the careful labor of harvesting flax, spinning, and then the masterstroke, weaving on a vertical loom that's been the pride of artisans since time immemorial. The alternative to linen is the earthy, robust demeanor of wool, a fiber beloved for its warmth and resilience. You pick up a piece handspun with care, its texture familiar yet strikingly rough by today's standards. Historians still argue whether the Mesopotamians were sheep whisperers or if the sheep were particularly stylish of their own accord. Either way, the fiber's intrinsic aroma mingles with the brisk morning air, carrying with it the impression of pastoral landscapes chock full of bleeding life. Of course, committing to a fashion choice in ancient Mesopotamia isn't simply about comfort or practicality. It's about social strata, and you ponder for a moment the dyed garments strewn across your makeshift dressing platform. Possessing a dyed cloth is your all-access pass into ancient aristocracy, since colors derived from plant and mineral dyes were the ultimate status symbols, your personal sartorial flex. There's a particularly intriguing tint, a kind of faded indigo, reminiscent of the famously elusive Tyrian purple but slightly less opulent. The fact that someone had to go through incredible lengths, collecting countless murex snails, painstakingly extracting minute quantities of their pigment, just to create a hue is both baffling and beautiful. You drape a shawl of this blue-tinged masterpiece across your shoulders and catch sight of the fine geometric patterns cleverly worked into its weave. Here's where fashion transcends mere function, it's both wearable art and a cryptic narrative whispered through loom work. Mesopotamian patterns can vary from bold, almost mathematically precise zigzags to delicate, flower-like embellishments. Each tells stories of rituals, daily life, or cosmic beliefs, all woven with an intricate precision that even your best fast fashion pieces from today could never replicate. The artistry woven into these garments speaks volumes about Mesopotamian life, its aesthetic allure revealing itself as both decadent and practical, a smoother version of camouflage for navigating the ebb and flow of ancient society. Observing the ways and customs of dressing among different people here, you might stumble upon the fringe tidbit that undergarments, much like certain fashion fads today, had their flamboyant phase. Strange but true, loincloths could be adorned with tassels, enough to make one wonder if they were designed for utility or the pursuit of unspoken fashion guerrillas. As you make your final adjustments and prepare to embark on the day ahead, you realize each piece of clothing ties you into the fabric of this landscape, literally binding you to a collective identity stitched through centuries of shared culture. Somehow, even in the absence of zippers or that life-changing four-way stretch fabric, there is an unanticipated comfort. It's a gentle reminder that centuries may pass, styles may shift, but the human penchant for self-expression through fashion remains as constant as the sun rising over Mesopotamia. In the moments that follow, you can hardly escape the delightful irony that in an age when saying clay and wool might conjure images of an art class gone haywire, these materials were the cornerstone of elegance. So, off you go, festooned in a historically bespoke ensemble that perhaps falls a stitch or two short of a Vogue cover but enriches your understanding of ethos and material. Now clad in garments befitting an ancient socialite, or at least a reasonably well-dressed citizen, you're ready to face the multifaceted world of Mesopotamian civilization. You bear the sensorial tapestry of time's gentle pressure and influence, wrapped and aligned with this land's enigmatic culture, poised to journey onwards. Take a moment to breathe it all in. You, wreck lad in history, now sketch a portrait of time where the maker's hand in society's rhythm imbue meaning in every thread. Your stomach growls as you rub the sleep from your eyes, lying on a reed mat. It's time to partake in a typical Sumerian breakfast, and oh, what a feast awaits you. It's a meal that knows no eggs Benedict or avocado toast. Instead, you face a smorgasbord of bread, beer, and dates. Yes, beer for breakfast. Before you imagine foam-topped steins with breakfast sausages, let's just adjust your expectations slightly. The Sumerians, known for inventing the wheel, irrigation, and written script, talk about overachievers, also brought beer into the world. Their beer, though, isn't quite your Friday night brew. It's a thick, porridge-like substance that's as much chewed as sipped, and consumed through a straw to filter out floating grain bits. Historians still argue whether this beverage was a dietary staple or just the world's first boozy smoothie meant to kickstart your day with a minor buzz. Let's face it, mornings are hard, regardless of the millennium. Paired with your liquid breakfast is bread baked from an array of grains, mainly barley and emmer wheat, forming dense, hearty loaves. Compared to your artisanal sourdough or fluffy brioche, these might seem heavy and coarse, but they're designed to sustain and energize a hard-working Sumerian like yourself. Fancy some butter or Nutella? Sorry, you'll need to trade a few more clay tablets for such luxuries. And then there are dates, sweet, chewy morsels that balance the earthiness of everything else. A delightful treacle gliding down as you bite, each one suggesting that maybe your breakfast isn't so different after all. In a world where sugar is a precious rarity, dates are the secret weapon, nature's little way of rewarding those who brave the Mesopotamian morning. All around, others partake in this ritual. Families gather in small clusters, sharing laughs, groans, and mumbled complaints about the day's impending duties. The eldest family member likely recites a blessing or a wish for prosperity, hoping that the gods, unpredictable as they are, might lend a hand in the day ahead. As the sun climbs lazily over the horizon, casting golden glows over adobe walls, you observe the interplay of everyday life unfolding like a play. Each person, each routine, part of a practiced choreography that extends back to the dawn of civilization. Mesopotamians knew a thing or two about routine, a concept as old as their cuneiform tablets. A quirky tidbit for you to chew on alongside your bread: it wasn't uncommon for the Sumerians to bless their meals in the name of multiple gods. Enki, the god of wisdom and water, or perhaps Ninkasi, the goddess of beer herself, no kidding, might be invoked to ensure good fortune in brewing and agriculture. May your beer be bountiful, they might toast, in cuneiform, naturally. Who could have guessed that your morning's mashup might have divine supervision? Now, as you sip and chew your nourishment, consider how this culture viewed food as more than mere sustenance. It was an expression of piety, community, and even a status. Those who feasted more lavishly were often the city elites, with access to flavors and aromas that escaped the everyday laborer's reach. Food was not just a meal, it was a reflection of one's place in society, a notion familiar even in our current times when avocado can toast your reputation. In the quieter corners of Mesopotamian scholarship, there's a debate over the role of food in social structure. Did bread unify people under its yeasty flag, or merely delineate the boundaries of class, an edible hierarchy? Perhaps both are true, a paradox as layered as the bread you break. As the meal winds down, you can't help but feel a rare connection to those ancient breakfasters. Modern wonders and gizmos might fill your kitchen now, but the desire to gather, share, and rejuvenate before a long day is timeless. Remember that next time you sip your fair trade coffee, you're part of a very, very long tradition. With a belly full enough to face whatever trials the Mesopotamian world throws your way and a mild ale-induced placidness enveloping your mind, you rise from the gathering and prepare for the next chapter of this historical adventure. There's a buzzing stillness, a moment where time folds and yet stretches, where past abruptly meets present, reminding you that even in a distant land, amidst clay and wool, some things never change. The dusty path leads you through the wakeful city, where you find yourself face to face with an imposing structure that seems to touch the realm of the divine. Ah, the ziggurat, a towering terraced temple that's not just a skyscraper of mud brick but an architectural marvel. Imagine a very ambitious intern at an Egyptian pyramid building firm who one day decided to add a few layers and call it a ziggurat. Though not exactly a vacation destination, its steps beckon you upward as if promising enlightenment. As you commence the climb, each step is a new octave in the symphony of chanting priests. Their voices, deep and hypnotic, reverberate around you, swirling in incense-infused air. Priests atop the ziggurat sing hymns to the gods, meticulously adhering to age-old rituals. Historians still argue whether these rituals were orchestrated acts of devotion or just divine karaoke. But for now, you surrender to the melodic murmurs that ripple like waves through a prayer-infused sea. Up on the first terrace, your senses are heightened by the fragrance of burning myrrh and clouds of frankincense. The ancient Mesopotamians were scent connoisseurs long before the word boutique appeared on any perfume bottle. This was their Chanel No. 5, earthy and compelling, yet elusively heavenly. Incidentally, Mesopotamian nobles were convinced these fragrances lulled the gods into granting good harvests. Did it work? Your guess is as good as historians. Slightly out of breath, you reach the mid-level terrace, closer to where the gods reside, at least according to Sumerian theology. Here, the world seems almost to pull back, its daily clamor muffled beneath your feet. You engage with the massive, mud brick complex, a signal to any visiting deity of the devotion housed within its heart. It was not uncommon for temple priests to leave little clay offerings, mini resume builders, hoping to get the attention of a god. Who needs LinkedIn when you can have an offering on a ziggurat terrace? As you continue your ascent, let's take a moment to appreciate the quirky historical tidbit lounging in the wings, the rumor that ziggurats were painted in vivid colors. Although scholars haven't come to a consensus, some believe each level flaunted a hue straight out of a Mesopotamian Pantone catalog, envision playful blues, radiant reds, and eternal golds. Historians point fingers and shrug, wondering if this was historic fact or someone's footnote gone awry. Finally reaching the summit, you are greeted by a panoramic view that most citizens could only dream of. The city sprawls out before you in symmetrical chaos, a checkerboard of thatch roofs, clay structures, and the glint of the Euphrates in the distance. If the gods indeed descended here, surely they appreciated the view. As you stand on hallowed ground, you can feel the hum of thousands of devotees who have stood where you are, gazed heavenward, and whispered hopes into the ether. The clamor of drums and pipes draws your eyes back down to the temple procession, an ensemble of priests, nobles, and citizens in pursuit of divine favor. This daily undertaking is a community affair, a spiritual glue binding everyone from the lowliest potter to the proudest ruler. Their unity echoes in the rhythm of the music, each beat a reminder of their collective bond, a melody older than empires and as continuous as the rivers nourishing this cradle of civilization. You might find it intriguing that some debated the true purpose of these ziggurats. Were they purely religious hubs, or did they serve pragmatic purposes like signaling flood levels or marking seasonal changes? Or perhaps, just maybe, they were the architectural manifestos of a zealous architect graced with creative freedom and plenty of laborers willing to settle for clay biscuits. However, none can deny their crucial role as the heart, soul, and occasional nose of Mesopotamian cityscapes. Up on that zenith, you wonder whether these ancient rituals truly affected the mundane world below or if they coiled around the ethereal depths of existence like serpent sinews in the Mesopotamian myths. Could these age-old practices invite divine guests to crush crumbs at a celestial banquet, one in which the mortal guests remain oblivious while savoring barley beer below? Even now, the question remains alluringly open. The singers below reach a crescendo, their sounds blending into the dramatic tapestry of the dawn. And just as quickly as it started, the ceremony fragments into the calm after the spiritual storm. Now your descent begins, a less burdensome affair than your venture upward. Each step, a gentle reminder of the hierarchy and history embedded into this grandeur, a reminder carved not in stone ultimately, but in persevering mud brick making its weary way through millennia. Returning to earth, you find a peculiar comfort in the tempo of life resuming. There's an undeniable thrill, and perhaps relief, in this knowledge, the feeling of blood pumping through a living city, not unlike the thrill you get after skipping a terrible update on your phone and finding everything intact. Take a breath. Feel the clay underfoot. Your journey through this ancient world has just begun, and already the ziggurat whispers tales that will echo as you wander further into the resplendent folds of Mesopotamia. But, remember to keep a little incense tucked away, because, as every Sumerian knew, it's always good to stay on the god's fragrant side. As you meander away from the towering ziggurat, your senses are soon overwhelmed by the sprawling vibrancy of a Mesopotamian bazaar. Picture a modern farmer's market on steroids, minus the hipster baristas, where trade is conducted with clay tokens and haggling is as essential as the goods themselves. You're confronted by an explosion of colors and textures. Stalls are piled high with textiles, their vibrant hues echoing everything from the deep blue of lapis lazuli to the rich reds of imported carnelian. Mesopotamian merchants perfected the art of weaving tales almost as much as textiles, promising that the dyes in their fabrics were exotic and long-lasting, possibly because they were crushed from snails or plants decidedly rare. Now, brace yourself for a little trivia bomb the ancient world drops on you. Historians still argue whether particular Mesopotamian traders invented the concept of credit or simply fumbled around trying not to be conned by reinventing it. It's a delightful conundrum that makes paying interest on your modern credit cards seem almost quaint. As you wade deeper into this sea of commerce, you're engulfed by a cacophony of merchants shouting out their wares and the inviting aroma of spices wafting through the air. There's a particular tang from cumin and coriander, subtle but whispering tales of lands far beyond the Tigris and Euphrates, an ancient Instagram story in scent form. Peering at a vendor's display, you notice exquisite lapis lazuli, its blue glow almost hypnotic amid the dust and bustle. This stone was so prized, even kings would trade for it, sometimes bartering entire herds of sheep in exchange. Let's just say this bargain beats any black market deal made for first-class airplane seats today. You spot a group of traders locked in intense negotiation over bars of barley, an essential currency at the time, and, oh yes, the humble basis of that Sumerian breakfast beer you had earlier. Without the comforts of Venmo, people exchanged goods and services, and the negotiation was not just a way to settle on a price but almost an art form itself. Imagine each transaction as a theatrical drama where everybody had a role, from the renowned trader with the finest carpets to the clumsy apprentice dropping livestock herders in the wrong place. For those with a penchant for debate, here's where things get interesting. Some scholars believe such bustling trade centers contributed to the spread of writing. Because when scribes weren't obsessing over the latest hemline at the tailor's, they were documenting transactions, crafting inventories, and ensuring no one's sheep wound up in another's pen inadvertently. After all, keeping tabs on a bustling market without some form of chicken scratch proto-writing seems as likely as navigating an Amazon return without an email confirmation. Of course, any trade center worth its weight in barley had to show off a few quirky elements. Here, a peddler offers charms and amulets, swearing they protect against evils brought by jealous gods, or worse, your neighbor's evil eye. You almost consider buying one when you're reminded of a similar modern-day purchase, that equally dubious get-rich-quick audiobook you snagged last year. As you dodge a particularly insistent textile vendor who seems to think you need enough wool to clothe an army, you catch sight of an entertainer juggling clay jars while balancing on a wooden beam. His audience is captivated, merrily joining in the street's song, a delightful juxtaposition of tradition and whimsy. The everyday grind is softened by performances that distract and delight, a reminder that even in ancient times, humans found joy in art and spectacle. And just when you assume you've seen it all, you pass a stall run by an ambitious merchant peddling aromatic oils. His sales pitch rivals even the most seasoned infomercial hosts, claiming his concoctions not only smell divine but repel mosquitoes, grant wisdom, and potentially make you more attractive at social gatherings. You can't help but smirk. It's the ultimate ancient multi-level marketing scheme. The bazaar's quality and diversity come from its position at a crossroads of cultures and trade routes, a veritable meeting point brimming with ideas, goods, and influences from Anatolia to Persia. But what remains most captivating is how each item exchanged tells a tale of perilous journeys, skilled craftsmanship, and the rhythm of daily life in this time-honored land. Leaving the bazaar, with maybe just a small token in hand as a cheeky souvenir, a clay replica of a mini Mesopotamian idol or perhaps an intricately carved alabaster trinket, you realize that while life here operates within a framework of goods and barter, it's fueled by stories, laughter, and the cheeky promise of it all during each haggled exchange. Your senses slightly overwhelmed and the soles of your sandals a bit dusty, you find solace in understanding that here in ancient Mesopotamia, much like today, it's not just about what you own, but the experiences you carry back with you. And as you walk, the ambient noise of the bazaar fades into a gentle hum, echoing like a lullaby of civilization itself. As midday approaches in ancient Mesopotamia, you begin to feel the heavy presence of Hammurabi's code, much like the searing sun hangs in the sky. Picture a world long before lawyers and courtrooms where you find yourself surrounded by stone monoliths inscribed with cuneiform, a writing system that, let's be honest, makes modern texting shorthand seem positively Shakespearean. These stones are more than mere rocks, they are the backbone of law and order, embodying the famous phrase an eye for an eye. So, if you thought remote work flexibility was a challenge, consider how carefully you'll need to navigate your choices here, lest they land you in a debacle more serious than forgetting to mute your mic during a Zoom call. Take a stroll through the city center, and you cannot help but notice the imposing stone steels, standing like solemn sentinels. They are chipped and weathered from years in the baking sun, yet their messages are as clear and resolute as ever. Each decree etched into the rock offers a glimpse into the past when Hammurabi attempted to bring order to the chaotic human condition. Historians still argue whether the code was as effective as intended or merely a grandiose sculpture project showcasing Babylonian propaganda. For a close-up view, you crane your neck to read the intricate wedge-shaped characters, each line telling tales of justice served, or perceived to be. With 282 laws to choose from, your day could get quite busy deciphering justice as it was nearly 4 millennia ago. From measures designed to protect the weak and the poor, a sort of ancient social security system, to clauses that must have left some folks scratching their heads, like the one about handling false accusations, where the penalty is literally swimming in a river, you might start wondering about their fitness for modern-day reality TV settings. But the true charm of these stone inscriptions is that they were applied quite democratically. Laws applied to everyone, regardless of your clay tablet earnings or your prowess in the fields. Something here reminds you of those smartphone terms and conditions you quickly scroll past. Well, back then, the charges weren't hidden fees on your data plan but rather life-altering commands. Consider this: if you built a house and it collapsed, causing death, let's say your architectural ad for earthquake-proof design would have serious consequences. Your punishment depended on the victim. A lost son meant your own son faced a similar doomed fate. No pressure on the engineering exam there. Further complicating matters, there are laws dealing with irrigation and agriculture, rules of trade, family disputes, and even medical malpractice. Imagine sifting through ancient Yelp reviews where a poor performance in healing meant a public rather than a one-star review. The weights and measures in the markets were another concern. Merchants had to be meticulously honest or find themselves in hot legal water, likely missing a few scales, not unlike some wallet-emptying modern fines for minor infractions. Then, there's the quirky bit: the code included provisions for tavern owners. Yes, keepers of alcoholic establishments faced serious scrutiny, serve a subpar brew, and punishment ensued. Perhaps an early version of quality control policies? One wonders if today's service industry staff might find some solidarity in those guidelines, though the repercussions back then were rather more severe than a stern Yelp review. As you ponder these lessons in justice, you can't escape the thought of how deeply these laws infiltrated daily life. From harsh penalties for theft, designed to make any would-be thief think twice, to detailed regulations about family and marriage, where even something as mundane as a poorly managed household could cause an avalanche of legal trouble. The code served as a stiff reminder that accountability wasn't a modern invention but a timeless pursuit of civilizations. Historians still debate the reach and effectiveness of Hammurabi's code. Was it uniformly enforced, or did its application differ depending on the inclinations of local officials, much like how certain traffic laws seem variably enforced today? Step back for a moment to contemplate the scope. What you see isn't just a list of do's and don'ts but a snapshot of humanity's early attempt at laying down collective principles. It's as if you're witnessing a proto-Justice League, without the capes, who sat down and thought, wouldn't it be neat if everyone abided by the same rules? Despite engravings immortalized in stone, these laws hint at flexibility and evolution, too. You see, a law is never truly set in stone, even when it quite literally is. Society, much like those caravans you admired at the bazaar, keeps moving forward, shifting, and changing. It's perhaps comforting knowing that thousands of years later, humans are still trying to nail down just what is major and what is minor. In this stone forest of ancient legalese, as the shadows grow longer and you sense the whisper of history through crevices in the steels, you realize that despite the severe repercussions of those times, the drive to structure society with rules and norms is a relentless human pursuit. It's perhaps the most profound part of the journey, understanding that civilization's cradle wasn't just about monumental ziggurats or heart-stopping bazaars but also about grounding human endeavor in shared codes, however imperfect they might have been. So, as you wander back to the city heart, do take a moment to pat yourself on the back for navigating that labyrinth of legality without stumbling into a pitfall of ancient bureaucracy. Be grateful for the courtesan perks of modern life. You can still walk away from your Mesopotamian daydream with neither fish nor justice meted in unexpected rivers. As you ponder these laws written in stone, rest in the knowledge that in this vast, timeless discourse, you've now played your part, even if just for a day. As you wander further from the city's lively buzz, A sprawling landscape stretches before you, a world where your modern contraptions hold no sway. The sun is a brilliant disk, unrelenting yet somehow invigorating as it kisses your skin. Your task today is working the fields, a cornerstone of Mesopotamian life, and the lifeblood of this ancient civilization. It's not just any farming, though. You're entering the realm of an ingenious irrigation system, a marvel of its time, channeling the mighty Tigris and Euphrates rivers to nourish the land. Picture mounds of earth meticulously arranged to direct water. They're basically ancient sprinklers are us. Unlike any backyard system you've encountered, this network ensures that each tender shoot gets its drink. Eyes squinting, you hoist a hoe crafted from wood and stone, a humble tool but effective, much like that all-in-one survival gadget you convinced yourself you'd use more often. The fields are a patchwork of barley and wheat, grains that sustain both body and economy. Your contribution may seem small, a few drops in this historical bucket, but each stroke of your labor ties you to a rhythm older than any symphony. You fall into the cycle, matching your pace with the calls and laughter of fellow workers. Historians still argue whether these early farmers sang while they worked, or if perhaps they recited poetry. Either way, there's a melody in the air, a harmony of human voices blending with the rustle of leaves and babbling rivulets of irrigation channels. Straddling the line between necessity and innovation, your farming experience also introduces you to an ancient kind of engineering. Would you believe they even managed to divert entire river courses at times? The kings of old really took the go big or go home mantra seriously. It's a curious contrast to the days of wrestling a garden hose into submission. But wait, what's this? You discover something unexpected underfoot, as your sandal connects with something harder than dirt. Bending down, you unearth a cuneiform tablet discarded who knows how long ago. Was this a grocery list, or an overdue notice from a library? The value of clay as both a written record and a tool of everyday life cannot be overstated. It might make you glance twice at that Pottery Barn emoji next time. Drawing a weary hand across your sweaty brow, you marvel at the close partnership between humanity and environment in this fertile crescent. Unlike today's debates on sustainable farming, Mesopotamia's success was the glorious proof of human ingenuity working in harmony with nature, or perhaps a heavy-handed manipulation, as revisionist historians might suggest. Of course, this idyllic picture isn't without its weeds. Crop failures were as potentially catastrophic then as they are anxiously watched now. It's a tightrope walk, balancing nature's bounty with its capriciousness. The impulse to control every variable was as impossible then as it is today, a gentle reminder that we are merely guests on this spinning planet. As the sun edges toward its zenith, you take a moment to imagine the life cycle of these crops. Once harvested, grains were ground into flour or malted into beer, the latter doubling as dietary staple and social lubricant, a duality not lost on your Mesopotamian counterpart. This civilization could teach a thing or two about making the most of what you've got. It's time for a sit-down, a chance to nibble on some simple fare, flatbread, a smear of honey, all washed down with a slosh of weak but nourishing barley brew. Take heart, your efforts fuel a household, perhaps even the storerooms of a bustling city. Your appreciation grows for those who walk these fields day after day, while you, a visitor from the future, taste only a bite of their daily bread. The sun dips ever lower, casting the field in a golden hue that photographers today can only dream of capturing. The air is tinged with the earthy sense of harvest, a sensory detail you'll carry back to your own time as a memento of your journey. It's an admirable testament to the human spirit, that resolve to reap a living from the earth, sometimes against great odds. Now, as sweat cools on your skin, you rise with newfound respect. The tools are returned to their home, and as you leave the field, there's an invitation to join the evening's communal meal, an event as much about camaraderie as it is about sustenance. The sun has exerted its ancient magic, painting the horizon with colors so vivid they seem otherworldly, a canvas as captivating as any virtual reality. As the field retreats into shadow, the earlier trials fade, transformed into pleasant fatigue, akin to leaving the gym slightly sore yet satisfied. You've exchanged the blink-and-you'll-miss-it pace of the future for a measured existence, one that boasts the permanence of stone and the wisdom carved alongside it. In an era where hourglass sands have long since slipped away, the rhythms of agrarian life remain steadfast. Mesopotamian fields, ageless beneath the sun's watchful eye, remind you that innovation needn't come with a plug or a password. Sometimes, it springs from simple elegance, ancient furrow and timeless toil marrying under shimmering skies. The sun hangs high over the bustling streets, casting shadows that dance along the baked mud brick lanes of ancient Mesopotamia. You find yourself at the center of human innovation, where the gentle scratch of styluses on clay tablets fills the thick air, much like the tap-tap of keyboards in a modern office. Here, the humble scribe, decked out in tunic and crossed sandals, invites you into the heart of documentation as they etch the future, one cuneiform symbol at a time. Crouching beside a low, wooden desk piled with damp clay tablets, you can't help but marvel at this ingenious early writing system. You clutch a damp lump of clay, generously bestowed by the scribe who seems just as perplexed by your presence as you are by the mysteries of wedge-shaped symbols. It's your early form of word processor, though the spell check looks suspiciously like a stern glance from a seasoned scribe. Cuneiform, it's the Instagram of ancient Mesopotamia, each mark a carefully curated piece of life's daily narrative. The thick lines and crisscrosses carve messages, record transactions, and immortalize edicts. You can almost hear a Mesopotamian elder proclaiming, if it's not in cuneiform, did it even happen? Modern archaeologists spend lifetimes deciphering these clay-tweed archives, piecing together tales of triumphs, trades, and taxes. While today's scholars risk paper cuts, the ancient Mesopotamian risked breaking a nail, inconvenient when your writing board is more tectonic slab than silicon chip. Who knew history could be so hard on the manicure? Historians still argue whether cuneiform was developed from the need to keep track of barley rations or to record the Epic of Gilgamesh, and perhaps it was both. Even the art of cataloging mundane details like grain collected from fields speaks to a society with its priorities cemented in the tangible. Now, as you scratch reluctant lines into your clay counterpart, you consider the permanence of these tablets. Even the internet's delete forever button lacks such finality. And now for a quirky tidbit, the original writing utensils, styluses, were made of reed and wood. Envision it as a sort of proto-Siri, ready at a moment's notice to jot down your every whim and command. It brings a whole new meaning to talk to the hand. This reed tool is your key to unlocking the secrets of the city and perhaps leaving your own mark on history. Nearby, a seasoned scribe, his hair touched with the silver of many waxing moons, points to symbols representing trade agreements. Each arrangement meticulously etched, ensuring that whether you traded a dignified goat or a prized lapis lazuli, every detail was forever preserved. Unlike our flippant modern emails with their sign-offs and digital receipts, these transactions are woven into Mesopotamia's storytelling, echoed across millennia whenever a new tablet is unearthed by an enthusiastic archaeologist. There's a certain zen in the repetition, a mindfulness that's almost lost in today's hustle and bustle. With scratch after calculated scratch, this meticulous art form defines civilization. Imagine our society meticulously chronicling every like or retweet on a clay scroll, our world would drown in clay redundancy. But here, every mark, every wedge, is intentional, an artist's signature on the scroll of time. Though your fingers have grown stiff and your clay-smeared garments are turning heads, there's a wisdom in this ancient artistry, just another reminder to slow down, embrace writing's deliberate dance, and resist the urge to shortcut coherence with emojis. Despite your heroic efforts, your clay tablet looks more modern art than Mesopotamian masterpiece. Perhaps a hidden gem might lay within your erratic lines, who's to say? As you pack away the tablet, handing it back to the scribe who nods in approval, or disbelief, you're not sure, a newfound respect unfurls in your chest. These tablets, scattered and preserved in ruins, still contain whispers of history, love, trade, and war. With one final look at the scribe's ready stylus and neat stacks of nascent records, you muse on the eternal nature of words, even those scratched into mud. What will your story be, left behind on the paper, or clay, of this age for future explorers to find? Though historians still debate whether every scratch's purpose was sacred, bureaucratic, or poetic, you know one thing for sure, even the most mundane details of life can inspire wonder when etched in time-honored clay. The sun is setting in ancient Mesopotamia, casting an amber glow over the sprawling cityscape. You've navigated the bazaars, faced the written laws, and even had a go at scribing cuneiform. Now, as dusk settles, it's time to gather at the temple, where stories of old are spun with the same intricacy as the woolen garments you wrapped yourself in earlier this morning. Oh, and speaking of garments, let's hope you're still not draped in enough layers to rival an onion. Inside the temple, shadows dance across the walls, flickering with the flames of oil lamps that the sacred space. As you settle onto the woven mats scattered about, the air hums with anticipation. The storyteller begins, weaving a rich tapestry of mythology, where gods reside on mountaintops and mortals engage in epic battles, a literal Netflix of deific proportions delivered through oral traditions. You hear of Anu, the supreme sky god, believed to oversee the cosmos with a stern, yet sometimes questionable gaze. Rumor has it that Anu didn't always play favorites with humans. Historians still argue whether his celestial decisions lean towards benevolence or mere divine caprice. Remember, these are the very stories that helped society make sense of a world where science hadn't yet set up shop next to the incense burners. As the tales unfold, you learn about Gilgamesh, a part divine king whose adventures were as much about finding immortality as they were about grappling with existential questions, because why not have a touch of ancient philosophy with your evening's legacy building? The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest known literary works, hints at a pursuit for fame and meaning that transcends time, even if antiquity hadn't yet invented the hashtag. The warmth of the temple feels like a cozy embrace, a perfect cocoon to let these stories wash over you. You're keenly aware that for ancient Mesopotamians, these tales weren't dusty relics of a bygone era, they were living, breathing lessons. You could say that they were the original TED Talks with a side of divine melodrama. As you listen, a bit of trivia bubbles up from the wellspring of your modern mind. Did you know that many scholars compare the Mesopotamian flood narrative to that of Noah's in the Bible? This correspondence of deluge stories has sparked debates more fiery than those oil lamps, with scholars divided over the murky origins and shared cultural waters of this ancient saga. But you're here for the yarns themselves, not to arbiters of ancient plagiarism claims. These stories weren't solely about gods or sovereigns, they etched societal norms into the psyche of the people, showcasing traits like bravery, loyalty, and, occasionally, a tempestuous relationship with hubris. You chuckle to yourself thinking they might have been an early form of self-help books, minus the paperback cover and blurb by the latest motivational speaker. The storyteller's voice rises and falls, wrapping the listeners in a mystical trance that's only occasionally interrupted by the bleating of a goat outside. Yes, because even in Mesopotamia, life finds a way to interject with its pastoral soundtrack. The smell of incense mingles with that ever-persistent scent of roasted grain, reminding you of the morning's culinary fare and nudging you into a blissful state of story-induced somnolence. Legends of lesser-known figures emerge, like the goddess Inanna, famed for her independence and rather dramatic journey to the underworld. She challenges the patriarchal divinity with a resilience that echoes through the corridors of history, a potent reminder of the varied narratives that populated these times. Some might say she was the original disruptor, a Mesopotamian influencer with her own set of hashtag goals. As the session draws to a close, you feel a profound sense of connection to these ancient whispers. They've spanned millennia to reach your ears, describing triumphs and trials with an insight that's strikingly relatable. Lest we forget, the ancients didn't have Instagram to immortalize their achievements, so naturally, oral storytelling had to do the heavy lifting. As the storyteller utters the concluding lines, applause rustles through the crowd, a silent agreement that these epics, stitched orally for generations, will continue to be spun into the fabric of future retellings. You leave the temple, stepping back into the humid night, your mind abuzz with heroic deeds and divine machinations. And though the night has quieted the city's hustle, the tales linger in your thoughts, a reminder that history's heroes and deities once walked the very paths you tread. As you carry these stories with you, remember that while clay tablets capture the words, it's through your retelling that these ancient echoes remain alive today. Isn't it remarkable how the same human longing for connection and understanding persists, from the tales of the past to our present-day scrolling of social media feeds? If only they had figured out the mystical properties of duck-face selfies, the gods may have decreed them worthy of cosmic preservation. Alas, some mysteries are never meant to be unraveled. As darkness draws its velvety curtain over the bustling city, you find yourself beneath an expansive canopy of stars. It's like someone spilled a jar of glitter across the sky, each twinkle a whisper from ancient astronomers who mapped out a celestial atlas long before GPS became our guiding light. You gaze up, enveloped by the serene stillness, with only the soft rustle of the Tigris and Euphrates as your soundtrack. Those strings of constellations up there aren't just pretty patterns for dreamers, they're functional, practical guides, a cosmic Swiss Army knife, if you will. In ancient Mesopotamia, The sky is no mere backdrop, it's a living map and calendar meticulously observed by stargazers in flowing robes. They wouldn't just be randomly pointing and wishing on these stars. Nope, they were marking the passage of time, predicting seasons, and sometimes even foretelling events. The Mesopotamians were among the first to notice that those shiny bits in the heavens followed specific paths, giving rise to one of history's earliest and most enduring debates: were those celestial wanderers gods, spirits, or merely lights in the night? Historians still argue whether astronomy here was purely for scientific inquiry or if it was intrinsically linked with religion. It's like trying to separate church and state with a cosmic twist. The sky over Mesopotamia is divided into zones, with constellations playing the leading role in the planetarium show. Ursa Major, also romantically known as the Great Bear, might be one familiar character in this ancient play. But here, the names and stories attached to these celestial shapes are a tad different. Instead of bears or dippers, you have creatures like the scorpion, still hanging around the astrological charts today, its sting a reminder of summer's reign over these lands. Back in the day, Mesopotamians would track the motion of stars and planets using something akin to proto-science, building clay tablets that were essentially stargazers' notebooks. Imagine having your own iPad, but instead of glass and silicon, it's made of mud, durable and gets the job done unless, of course, it rains. And boy, those astronomers meant business. They noted down everything, the good, the bad, and the inexplicable. This observational rigor laid the groundwork for future civilizations to ponder, leading some to argue that astronomy is the oldest of the sciences. A fun little tidbit here: our ancestors didn't just limit themselves to observing, they indulged in a bit of starry cooking, blending magic and rite. Mix 1 part astronomy with 2 parts astrology, add a pinch of religious fervor, and voila, a celestial recipe befitting an emperor's court. Some scholars cheekily suggest that the Mesopotamians probably wouldn't have been impressed by our current zodiac obsession. According to them, if you could read the stars, you could read the very will of the gods. At this point, the night sky reveals its most awe-inspiring secret, one of the earliest known depictions of the zodiac, etched onto a tablet worn smooth by the sands of time. This Mesopotamian invention serves more than to entertain at parties where everyone's determining their star sign compatibility. The stars were vital beacons guiding the agricultural schedule, ushering in times for planting and harvesting. It's likely the zodiac isn't there to tell you that love is just around the corner but to remind a farmer when to plant the barley. And let's not forget the Mesopotamians' most ingenious invention, the division of the circle into 360 degrees, which we all know from trying to understand tedious math problems. Historians are hotly debating whether this numerical genius results from their celestial observations or simply practical for baked goods, a kind of quantification that worked well with their sexagesimal system, where life, like a pizza, is better when divisible into manageable slices. It's astounding how this tapestry of stars becomes a timekeeper, a compass, and a divine text all rolled into one. The night sky in Mesopotamia isn't just something you glance at before heading to bed after a long day of avoiding crocodile dung sunscreen. It's a vibrant library of stories and knowledge, a breathtaking mural that ties together the past, present, and future. As you wrap yourself in the quiet evening luxury of stardust and history, you find a sense of enchantment with this ancient world. Here, you're standing on the same earth, looking at the same sky as someone thousands of years ago who might have been imagining you right now. Perhaps they envisioned a future where people like you would weave narratives under these very stars, perpetuating the timeless human tradition of wonder. That same vast expanse of twinkling dots invited the Mesopotamians to ponder their place in the universe, to marinate on the grand scheme of things and not just when retrograde had everyone behaving like it was Mercury's fault. The stars, considered by many to hold the secrets of the gods, were giant cosmic storytellers, knitting together a cosmic quilt that spells out messages for those patient enough to decode. Lying back beneath that celestial dome, it dawns on you that the serenity and beauty of a Mesopotamian sky might just be the most eloquent lullaby, lulling you into a slumber that stitches your dreams with threads of ancient wonder. So next time you conduct your nightly ritual of gazing and wondering if that speck of light holds your fortune, remember, you're in good company, sharing thoughts with stargazers who penned the first chapters of our story in the stars above, during a time when those glowing dots weren't merely twinkles, but life's guiding lights. Now, as you meander through the dusty alleys of ancient Mesopotamia, your journey leads you to a place where the hum of spinning looms fills the air, merging into a soft chorus that is both rhythmic and melodious. You can almost feel the stories woven into every thread, tales crafted by deft fingers and ingenious minds. Here, Mesopotamian women are not just weavers of textiles, but also creators of a legacy that threads through time itself. As you draw closer, you'll notice these women anchored in their craft, surrounded by a kaleidoscope of colorful threads dyed with vibrant hues. The bright blues, rich reds, and deep purples are extracted from natural sources, like indigo plants, crushed insects, and mysterious concoctions. Historians still argue whether included a secret family recipe or perhaps some ancient Mesopotamian sorcery. You chuckle at the latter, imagining clay cauldrons bubbling over with colorful brews, and not a potion in sight. The loom's chatter is soothing, punctuated occasionally by the gentle laughter of women exchanging stories. Each creation they craft is more than just fabric, it's a narrative interwoven with stories and a reflection of their history. Unlike the customizable wallpapers on your smartphone, these patterns are far more enduring, and they serve as a testament to the enduring strength and creativity of women you'll never meet but somehow feel connected to. Among these women, deft hands work with precision as they pass shuttles back and forth, marking the days and capturing moments in a tapestry that speaks of tradition and identity. You wonder about their lives, imagining a blend of ordinary and extraordinary, juggling family, weaving, and perhaps even a clandestine role in the larger socio-political landscape of Mesopotamia. After all, they were the ones who shaped the domestic sphere and kept the cultural and economic wheels in motion. In Mesopotamia, a woman's work was far from limited to the loom. They exerted influence in various arenas, some managed estates or became priestesses, while others engaged in trade, proving themselves as linchpins of society. Yet, amidst their diversity of roles, weaving remained a crucial part of their identity. It's not just about crafting a tunic, it's a dance with destiny itself. Some might jest that if you can weave a complex pattern, managing multivariable algebra might seem like child's play, another debate historians take delight in. Historically, weaving also dictated social dynamics and trade. Fabrics were significant commodities in the Mesopotamian economy, driving exchange with regions as distant as Anatolia and the Indus Valley. Nowadays, with online marketplaces just a tap away, it's difficult to imagine a world where such vital exchanges happen through face-to-face bartering. But for these women, their handiwork was on par with precious metals, a paradoxical treasure spun from humble origins. As you watch, a subtle scent of olive oil wafts through the air. Used for lubricating spindles, its presence imbues the scene with a grounding earthiness. You're reminded, rather cheekily, that even then, olive oil had multiple uses: beauty product, lamp fuel, and of course, an indispensable Mediterranean staple. An ancient multitasker, much like these women, managing to weave not just textiles, but also the social fabric of their community. Another woman introduces herself and shares a tale of how patterns in fabric narrate lineage and aspirations. Her fingers deftly work the loom as she divulges these secrets, almost like revealing an embroidery class merged with a genome project. Historians puzzle whether these designs were universal symbols or personalized identifiers, akin to today's QR codes, scanned to learn the ancestry and full history of this garment. You might be wondering about the education and artistic insight required for such complexity in craft. Mesopotamian women were often trained within their community, learning through observation and practice passed down through generations. This transference of skills nurtured not just dexterity but also imagination. It's rather quaint to think they experienced immersive educational experiences without the need for tuition fees or PowerPoint presentations. As the sun dips below the horizon, the looms continue their rhythmic dance. You realize these women were the unsung storytellers of their age, spinning yarns both literal and metaphorical, an enduring legacy transcending time. The strength of their social network, one without a single Wi-Fi signal, is woven into every fabric, a testament to collaboration and resilience. A soft laugh echoes through the evening sky. You catch another whiff of olive oil and crushed indigo, the air now saturated with the permanence of a day's honest work. These women, never celebrated in epic tales or grand monuments, have nevertheless left an indelible mark scribbled in the warp and weft of everyday life. Content in knowing you've witnessed a glimpse of their world, a world where fibers tell stories and fabrics communicate identity. You leave the weavers behind with a newfound appreciation. Women with nimble fingers and keen minds, who have managed to weave not just fabrics, but the very memory of Mesopotamia into history's tapestry. As you proceed, the gentle cadence of looms fades, replaced by the distant murmur of city life preparing for the embrace of night, reminding you that in this intricate mosaic of time, every thread has its place, spun by hands that shape both today and tomorrow. The warmth of the Mesopotamian sun fades into a cool twilight, as you find yourself entering a modest dwelling, following the faint, intriguing scent of herbs that linger in the air. This, my friend, is the realm of ancient healers, a fanciful blend of science, superstition, and a touch of what we modern folk might just call wishful thinking. The healers of Mesopotamia, armed with a slew of arcane knowledge, weave together treatments that send you tumbling down a rabbit hole of ancient wisdom and curiosity. As you cross the threshold, your senses are bombarded by a kaleidoscope of scents, a pungent mix of dried herbs, some you recognize and others that remain elusive. Fragrant coriander mingles with the earthy notes of saffron, alongside more mysterious elements, a heady concoction that'd make a modern pharmacy seem as dull as, well, an unflavored rice cake at a birthday party. Seated in the corner, the healer chants incantations softly, weaving the fabric of spells that, historically, have been credited with legendary healing powers. Of course, historians still argue whether the incantations served more as a psychological placebo or if ancient energia actually had a hotline to the gods. Nevertheless, in this world where the mystical and medical blur, you realize this duality makes perfect sense. A particularly striking feature of the healer's workshop is a collection of clay tablets, piled high in an orderly mess. Each tablet inscribed with cuneiform script detailing treatments and prescriptions, humankind's earliest pharmacopoeia. You can't help but wonder at this quirky tidbit. Among these symbols lies the recipe for a potion to protect against nighttime demons, a curious remedy involving a pinch of dust from the joint of a body that wasn't given proper burial. Now there's an ingredient you won't find at your local farmer's market. This brings us to a focal point of Mesopotamian medicine, diagnostic expertise that many claim rivaled even that of today. The healers, armed with the tools of observation and intuition, examine symptoms ranging from snail-paced sluggishness to fiery temperaments. The balance of bile, blood, phlegm, and black bile, the humors, was seen as the key to health, a theory that prevailed for centuries after. A fascinating debate pits these ancient healers against modern peers. Did they actually root some of their practices in genuine biological understanding, or were they merely prophesizing through a cultural kaleidoscope of mysticism? The truth, it seems, lies somewhere in between. Historical records paint a vivid picture of medical knowledge that fluttered seamlessly between plant-based remedies and magical incantations, sometimes within the same breath. As you peer closer, you spot an array of clay bowls, each brimming with remedies. Thyme, which you may recognize as a staple in a Sunday roast, served as a disinfectant, its fragrant leaves masticated into a paste. Meanwhile, the bark of a certain willow tree found itself ground into a fine powder, a precursor to aspirin, effective against the infamous Mesopotamian headache. Scientific upgrade or ancient wisdom? Perhaps a dash of both. Across the room, a makeshift altar captures your focus. At its center, an intricate statue of Gula, the goddess of healing and patron of the sick, stands sentinel. Offerings of fruit and bread are laid before her, intercessors in the divine healing process. Just as you muse on how her equivalent might have been a 24/7 pharmacy drive-through today, the healer adds an unusual item, a scroll bound in reed stalks. Its script? A narrative that claims a curious canine acquaintance once helped heal the goddess' own ailment. And no, it wasn't a magical hot water bottle. The synergy between herb and hope is striking in the Mesopotamian approach to illness and health. You find yourself contemplating the delicate balance of life, where the flutter of a butterfly's wing, or the cough of a patient, could tip the scales from health to malady. As you indulge in this poetic reverie, the healer offers you a small, coarse sample of their world. A token of bedtime, known for its calming properties, is placed in your palm. As you roll its leaves between your fingers, a soothing aroma wafts, and you wonder if there's comfort in its promise of peace. In this place where the ethereal winds stretch beyond the tangible, the old adage laughter is the best medicine rings truer than ever. A patient-sized dose of humor, perhaps embedded in stories of previously failed hair growth tonics, was often included in prescriptions. After all, who's to argue if a good chuckle might just appease the spirits and coax the body into healing itself? Historians debate whether these later tales of humor were genuine, but maybe, Just maybe, a particularly enthusiastic Mesopotamian bard found some room for jest in those moldy scrolls. Your parting from the healer's haven is accompanied by an unexpected array of emotions. There's an incalculable richness to a world that insisted hope and healing came wrapped in mystic veils. The interplay of potions and poetry resonates like an epic, where every ailment is both a battle and, more importantly, a story. As night settles in, a soft trace of that herbal odyssey lingers, its essence cradled in the folds of your tunic. You carry these threads of ancient knowledge with you, wrapped in the irony that while Mesopotamian medicine might not pass today's scientific muster, its legacy whispers across millennia, echoing the timeless dance of humans with the healing arts. And thus, with a heart slightly lighter, you step out into the night. The tapestry of stars spread above seems to twinkle with amused curiosity, as though silently cheering on these humble, earnest attempts to uncover the deepest mysteries of human health and the nature of existence. Your stroll through this ancient world is abruptly interrupted by a palpable tension in the air, like static before a storm. The cacophony of voices around you, normally a tapestry of barter and banter, now carries a sharper edge, whispers of looming conflict swirling like leaves caught in a tempest. You sense the restlessness, the anticipation of something inescapable brewing on the horizon. It seems wherever you turn your gaze, history has woven tales of rivalries and ambitions, threading the very foundations of these civilizations. Mesopotamia, with its cradle of creativity and chaos, was nothing if not a stage for the drama of empire against city-state, ambition against ambition. The word on the cobbled paths is war, an ever-present specter that seems to cast its shadow over everything. Maybe not the best time to mention, but consider halting that clay tablet selfie, a solid alibi for "I was just here for the bread and beer" might be needed. To understand this tension, you glance at the structures around you, a kind of architectural bravado. The city-states of Mesopotamia, like Uruk, and Babylon, were not just trading and cultural hubs but also fortresses, each bearing its own ambition for supremacy. Remember earlier, your brief delight at the complexity of barter without coins? Well, along with grain and textiles, jealousy and the hunger for dominion were also traded commodities. The nexus of this ambition often swirled around control of riverine pathways or fertile lands, golden tickets to prosperity or ruin. Now, it's no simple feat to pinpoint the exact flare-up of tensions here. Historians still argue whether it was economic pressure or the quest for glory that first turned neighboring comrades into foes. What's clear, in the eerie calm before potential storm, is that being a pedestrian in this setting means brushing shoulders with warriors and warlords alike, your sandals crunching over dust that specks both peace and conquest in its grains. Speaking of warriors, sooner or later, you'd spot the glint of bronze, Mesopotamian warfare's metallic signature. With your interest piqued and perhaps your curiosity bordering on imprudent, you saunter closer to one of these soldiers. They're outfitted, not with the Spartan minimalism you might expect, but in a mixed ensemble, shields that look like repurposed dinner platters and helmets that would make any modern-day DIY enthusiast proud. Warfare here isn't just business but a variety show of inventive armory. Rumor has it, you might even hear that some of these bronze-clad figures are dabbling in the earliest known scuba technology. Yes, seriously, quaint apparatuses meant for underwater sabotage, illustrating how warfare blossomed alongside innovative genius, sometimes bizarre, but always profound. And amidst these military preparations, community life hums. The women, adept navigators of home and hearth, weave not just tapestries but tales of resilience, their lives a testament to fortitude amid inevitable change. Their songs, rising above the looming discord, unfurl stories of life interwoven with struggle and survival, where conquest's mark rests heavily on their looms as well. There's an overwhelming sense that even as city-states prepare for potential clashes, daily life persists, refusing to be halted by impending conflict. Children still chase each other through the streets, merchants still oscillate between haggles and full-blown arguments, and somewhere, perhaps, a poet inks ode to lost loves on wet clay. Life's perpetual rhythm marches in step with the drums of war, an eternal waltz of creation and destruction. If you lean into the murmurings, rumors drift over from scribes who spend their days etching historical accounts onto tablets meant to endure the test of time. Historians suggest that these accounts are as much propaganda as journalism, an ancient spin room, if you will. The victories and losses become stories carved in stone, solidifying legacies or demonizing rivals with equal fervor. It's a reminder that the winner, not just in battles but in articulating history, seizes the ultimate prize, immortality, of a sort. The nuances within these tales aren't lost on you, including tales of surreal strategies and alliances as peculiar as some of the local culinary inventions. Did one city-state really try to bribe another with jars of honey and an unusually large cheese wheel? It's possible. Historians wax poetic about such peculiar negotiations, and you're left pondering if peace could ever be won with chèvres rather than chariots. Nevertheless, you feel acutely aware of this volatile peace, a truce that feels as fragile as the papyrus on which treaties are scribbled. Staccato tremors ripple through the crowd, each individual a singular thread woven into the broader tapestry of a territory on the cusp of contention. In moments like these, walking the fault line between harmony and havoc, one can't help but contemplate the fragility and tenacity of human endeavor. The delicately poised balance, the razor edge where diplomacy strides alongside military might, is a dance that even modern times have yet to master fully. And here, standing amidst these whispers of war, one can't escape the parallel truths, that peace is a blessing never taken for granted and that conflict is a specter lurking when ambition overshadows synergy. So, as you navigate through a landscape both timeless and fleeting, the anticipation of uncertainty shrouds you as the Mesopotamian sun dips below the horizon in a blaze of orange and purple, a prelude to what tomorrow may bring. You pause, watchful and wondering, a transient witness to time's unfurling canvas, where past stories and future myths intermingle in the sand-dusted air. It's a scene ripe for reflection, and maybe, just maybe, a quick, cheeky tablet etching to commemorate the moment. But remember, no flash photography, it might disrupt the flow of history unfurling in this cradle of civilization. As the day in ancient Mesopotamia winds down to a close, you find yourself seeking a moment of tranquility. The lively clamor of bustling markets and echoing prayers at the towering ziggurat has faded into a gentle whisper. The day's heat relents, leaving behind a cool breeze that brushes softly against your skin. You glance up to a celestial canvas dotted with tiny, luminous pearls, each one a whisper of eternity in the velvety nighttime sky. Above you, a tapestry of constellations tells stories as timeless as the earth beneath your feet. Imagine these twinkling stars as the original cosmic guidebook, a celestial GPS long before technology cluttered our nightstands. Historians still argue whether the ancients truly navigated their daily toils with the aid of these shimmering guides or simply found solace in their eternal presence. You lie back on a mat woven from reeds, feeling the gentle undulations of the ground beneath you. It's a texture both alien and familiar, nature's mattress. The cares of the day, the intensity of Hammurabi's etched code, the hum of the bustling bazaar, seem to drift away like the gentle curls of incense smoke you saw at dawn. Sleep isn't just a necessity here, it's akin to a sacred ritual. After all, what better way to imbibe the essence of Mesopotamian life than to surrender yourself completely to the embrace of its night? Listen closely, as the soft hum of nocturnal creatures forms a symphony of ancient lullabies, lulling you towards slumber. Perhaps a nightjar trills its comforting call, a sonic thread stitching together the fabric of night. It's said these birds hold mysteries in their songs, that they might even carry the sounds of Mesopotamian dreams themselves. Or perhaps that's just another whimsical notion to ease you into rest. Scholars continue to debate whether these nocturnal encounters inspired poetic verses or simply served as nature's quieting of the day's toils. Remember earlier how the temple walls echoed with narrations of gods and heroes? Well, those tales continue their muted dance above you in the stars. An ancient narrative played out, not as history books would have it, but as the ancients themselves might have perceived it, all finely detailed in the cosmic freckles of night. And who knows? Maybe you'll dream of Enkidu's epic exploits or the gentle sways of grain fields under Sybil's watchful eye. Your eyes begin to grow heavy, succumbing slowly to the persistent gentle tug of sleep. You've traveled far across time today, experiencing life in a world without email, or perhaps more crucially, without morning coffee, and come out the other side equipped with stories and sensations of a life once lived. Your modern mind has danced with ancient traditions, crafted by hands that knew not plastics or screens, but the subtler, grounding touch of clay and soil. As your body releases the last hold onto the waking world, the shimmering night canopy shelters you with its antiquated wisdom. You grasp, almost personally, the cradle of civilization embracing you now, a caricot of ancient humanity, rocking with the rhythms of long-forgotten lands and lives. And didn't it all begin here, in this whispering dusk, under this blanket of glimmering jewels, with clay tablets and storied skies? Drift now, gently but assuredly, into the quietude of Mesopotamian night. Let the stars, those ancient overseers, guide your dreams and guard your sleep. Feel the universe tighten its soft embrace with each steady breath. History, perhaps less boring, more like a bedtime lullaby, is here to assure you of its presence, constant yet distant like the twinkling dust arranged above. The world becomes muted as your breaths elongate and the peace of sleep dips you into its tranquil pools. The ancient hum withdraws, leaving only the still, soft blackness of night. No more decisions or debates to ponder, just the soft repetitive lull of Mesopotamian night enveloping you in its deep, time-forgotten wisdom. As you gradually transition into rest, remember, even the stars eventually tire and fall into dreams of their own. So close your eyes, feel the warmth of ancient Mesopotamian skies blanketing you, and let the cradle of civilization rock you gently to the enchanting rhythms of history. With a final sigh, surrender to the comfort of Earth's embrace, easing yourself into the profound stillness, and in a delicate whisper, let sleep take its place.